Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. We are talking real sports Monday through Friday, worldwide, 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And this is the $1 Million Show, and it's brought to you by none other than Cadillac. Go visit your Northern California Cadillac dealer, home of the Escalade. You can only get it there new. And when you go, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you. And also, Big C, I want to wish everyone a very happy Easter. And I appreciate them for listening in to the Charlton and Big C show. And I know, as we like to do, especially this time of year, we have sports and we have Hollywood, we have the entertainment industry, we have politics, we have everything happening. President Obama's in Cuba, just trying to make so many positive things happen. And Donald Trump is still having people beaten up at his rallies. But either way, it's a lightning rod issue. But Adam Sandler, one of the great actors out there, you love talking about him and his accomplishments, Big C, in Hollywood. What are your thoughts on Adam Sandler?
Well, you know, he's been one of the funniest men in Hollywood over the past decade and a half, Charlton. He's had a gamut of movies that he's done. But when we look at it, we've always tied sports and Hollywood together. Adam Sandler has been synonymous with that, Charlton. If you go back to his movie Happy Gilmore, where he portrayed an aspiring golfer.
Yeah.
And he had Carl Weathers, and people will remember him from the Rocky series.
Oh, yeah.
The fighter who fought Rocky, who played linebacker for 3 years with the Oakland Raiders.
Yeah.
And transcended into acting and went into the Hollywood side. He also, Charlton, played in Waterboy with Henry Winkler. Everybody remembers Henry Winkler. He was the Fonz in Happy Days.
Happy Days, yeah. That's good knowledge. Yeah. That's good knowledge.
He started out as the Waterboy and ended up becoming this great linebacker for this school down at this Victoria College down in Louisiana. But he also capped it off, Charlton, with the remake of The Longest Yard.
Yeah.
Which was a great movie back in the 70s with Burt Reynolds as the lead actor in that. But when you look at The Longest Yard, the remake of it, you look at the actors and entertainers that he had in the movie. He had Nelly, who's a singer, playing running back.
Yes. Bill
Romanowski was in the movie. Bob Sapp, you know, a world-renowned kickboxer.
Yeah.
Stone Cold Steve Austin from the WWE. Even Burt Reynolds was in the movie. But the guy who hosted the Oscars this last year, Chris Rock, also played a key role as caretaker in the movie, Charlton.
Yeah, Chris Rock. Think about Chris Rock being a caretaker in the movie. Also, Big C, I believe Nelly. You know, Nelly's a rap artist, musician. Also, Nelly appears, I believe, he's in, is it Husbands of Hollywood, Real Husbands of Hollywood?
He's in the Real Husbands of Hollywood, and he also has his own spinoff from that, Charlton, called Nelly's World, that he has a show with his family that's on television.
Yeah, Kevin Hart is also in Real Husbands of Hollywood, and it's ironic that you bring up Carl Weathers because we have this new movie Creed, and he's supposed to be the father of the guy in Creed, the actor in Creed that should have won an award with Sylvester Stallone. And
yeah, he was the father of Creed. He died in a boxing match fighting Dolph Lundgren in the movie.
And we know that Dolph Lundgren was also steroid free, Big C. When you think about guys like Dolph Lundgren and the lightning rod around athletes, and do they lift weights or do they actually do it naturally? And Dolph Lundgren, when you remember him in the movie Rocky, and we saw, again, Lundgren was a Russian. He was supposed to be about 6'6", Big C, about 230 pounds. And he was all natural, right? We talk about no one using steroids back in the day, Big C.
he never met a needle that he didn't like, though.
Well, see, the thing about acting, Sylvester Stallone, when we talk about that and how he's shaped Hollywood for athletes, because he's had, about 19,000 Rocky movies? But he's,
I think he's working on number 2,300 right now. So,
but I see the AARP and Rocky get along because here's a guy, again, just like the show, Charlton and Big C. He's transcended Hollywood and sports. He brought sports to Hollywood. And sometimes people say, well, how are the two mixed? I've seen so many programs now on ESPN where they're actually paying homage to Hollywood actors. And when you go to the games in L.A. or even in Las Vegas, who's getting seats in the front row, Big C?
Well, it's not you and I, Charlton. You know, we're sitting back there at the concession stand, not even in the arena, you know, the price of tickets nowadays.
Now, I know you sat front row, so don't try to act like you haven't. But either way.
No, I might have been sweeping up the front row, Charlton. That's about it. Passing out drinks.
I understand that. And also, so when we think about the acting part and Burt Reynolds, and I still think my favorite movie with Burt Reynolds is Smoking the Bandit with Jackie Gleason driving the Thunderbird.
It's had some of the greatest one-liners in the history of movies, Charlton.
Yeah.
With his son and telling his son and whether he was his son and the things he was saying with his hemogauge and all these other things.
You couldn't have come from my loins.
It's a movie that transcends time, and everybody can watch it today and still laugh like it was yesterday.
And I still remember that Firebird Trans Am, and everybody wanted to go out and get a Firebird Trans Am. This was back in the late 70s. But now I don't think Pontiac makes that car anymore. Talking about a comeback, that's a car that they definitely could bring back. And also, Big C, as we transition into the NFL, talking about a comeback, RG3 being picked up by the Cleveland Browns. Under Hugh Jackson, I think there's some history being made there, Big C. Go ahead.
Well, there's a lot of history when you think about it. Hugh Jackson is going to be the first African-American coach in the history of the Cleveland Browns organization, a long and illustrious football team.
Yeah.
But RG3 will be the first African-American starting quarterback on opening day for the Cleveland Browns. Now, you think about the Cleveland Browns franchise, Charles.
Yeah.
The Cleveland Browns franchise was the first NFL franchise to draft black running backs in the first round. Jim Brown was the first.
Yeah.
Then they turned around a couple years later in 1963 and drafted Ernie Davis in the first round. Unfortunately, he passed away from leukemia before ever getting a down on the field, but they have a great history of running backs. Ernest Biner.
Yeah.
Who had that famous fumble against the Denver Broncos
Ouch.
When they were driving and they thought Cleveland was going to go to the Super Bowl final.
Yeah. I think Las Vegas is very happy that all pro running back drops the ball on the goal line. But that's just my cynical part of football, just like I think that London was steroid-free in Rocky.
It was cold that day, so, the ball was a little slick. So, to get down, you drive all the way down, and you get to the 2-yard line, and you lay the ball on the ground. But that's what launched John Elway's legacy by buying and fumbling the ball. But, it's time in Cleveland. When you look at the work that Hugh Jackson has done with the limited quarterbacks that he had, you think about when he was in Oakland, Charlton, and he had Matt McGloin, an undrafted free agent out of Penn State. And he took the team to an 8-8 record with that, but that wasn't good enough to keep his job.
Yeah.
But now he has a legitimate NFL quarterback in Robert Griffin. I know there's a lot of naysayers out there in other media outlets saying, well, what are you going to get from Robert Griffin? When you're going to get a healthy Robert Griffin, just like you got in his rookie year.
Yeah.
You're going to get a guy with a quarterback who understands his talent. Now, he was under Mike Shanahan when he was in Washington.
Yeah.
Shanahan had a hurt quarterback and still tried to run him.
Yeah.
He didn't try to protect his young quarterback, putting his career in peril. But now that you have Hugh Jackson, and you look at the growth of Andy Dalton in Cincinnati under Hugh Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
So if Robert Griffin can get close to the growth that Andy Dalton had, he can return to all-pro form at quarterback. And all these naysayers talking about the next great quarterback is in the draft, Charlton.
Yeah.
That's a turkey shoot every time you draft a quarterback. When you look over the last 5 years coming out in the draft alone, Charlton, how many of those quarterbacks have made it to the playoffs?
Well, see, that's a very good point, Big C, because every time, and you've been following the sport about 40 years, every time someone's talking about a guy coming out of high school as an All-American, and they're going to be the next guy that becomes an All-American in college, at the college level, there's a big drop-off. And then the same thing happens again. It's like every 4 years, people forget. They're going to take these college All-Americans, and they're supposed to be can't-miss Hall of Famers in the NFL.
Well, Charlton,
it doesn't make any sense.
Perfect example. You're there on the West Coast, and I'm going to say about 6 years ago, there was this kid down in, I can't say the high school, but down in Southern California.
Yeah.
Matt Barkley.
Yeah, out of Mater Dei in Santa Ana, went to USC, played under Pete Carroll.
Supposed to have been the greatest quarterback ever come out of high school, okay?
Yeah.
He could barely make it through SC because he could never beat Oregon.
Yeah, that's true.
He ended up being a low-round draft pick of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody know where he's playing at right now?
Arizona, I believe. Is a backup?
He's a backup in Arizona. He's a third-string quarterback in Arizona. He was the next golden boy savior of the NFL. such as Blaine Gabbert.
Yeah.
Next Golden Boy savior in the NFL. Now he's toiling in Arizona. You know he can't beat out Carson Palmer, one of the hottest quarterbacks in the NFL the past couple of years.
Yeah, and
he's not even close.
And you know another great quarterback that they built up as this robo quarterback out of Southern California, I believe he played at Capistrano Valley, Todd Marinovich. He went to USC also, and he was the same kind of talk about him, where his father had him on a very regimented diet, wouldn't let him do a lot of things that other kids were doing, and he ended up having some substance abuse problems. But the same thing, Rob Johnson played.
You're trying to say he was a drug addict?
No, I'm not saying that at all. But we know that he had some issues, Big C. A lot of people have some type of issue.
So he developed a chemical dependency. I got it.
Exactly. But you think about it though, USC, really the institution of football on the West Coast, and for that matter, maybe even in the United States. But they've had some great, I guess, hyped quarterbacks come out of Southern California. And we know whether it's Matt Barkley, took them to a national championship. They beat Oklahoma in the Orange Bowl, 55-19.
That was Matt Leinart. That was Matt Leinart, Charlton.
Yeah, Matt Leinart.
Now look at Matt Leinart. You think about Matt Leinart, and they talked about him.
Yeah.
If he had came out the same year Alex Smith and Aaron Rodgers, then he would have been the first draft pick that year.
Well, Matt Leinart, and also I look at how Vince Young never got the same kind of hype. But once they played in the national championship, in a game that I hate, I think Pete Carroll made some horrible calls in that game that cost USC. Leinart threw the interception in the first half of the game. Reggie Bush had the Bush fumble. For some reason, the ball slipped out of his hands, and he was going in to about the 20-yard line. He tossed the ball forward. It was a fumble. Texas got it. They had a fourth down where they had Bush on the sideline, who had just won the Heisman Trophy. So some of those things you wonder about when coaches in Hollywood and Las Vegas get together. But Big C, before I get to the next segment, I just want to say that this segment is sponsored by BMW, the ultimate driving machine. Go down and test drive the BMW. Tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. And you got to drive the M7, 600 horsepower, a lightning rod of a car. Big C, we talked about Smokey and the Bandit. What would Burt Reynolds have done with 600 horsepower? I think the Firebird only had about 200 horsepower back in the day, Big C.
He may have outrun a couple of those Smokies that were chasing him down the freeway, Charlton. But, 600 horsepower, that, as you say, the ultimate driving machine in the BMW.
Yeah.
That's class personified. And that's what you have in your driveway, isn't it?
Well, I have one in the driveway, but what would Jackie Gleason, Buford T. Justice, do if he had 600 horsepower chasing people down in the South? Could you imagine? Talking about hanging people and burning them in molasses. And also, speaking about molasses, today I was talking to an offensive lineman, offensive tackle for the Denver Broncos. Now, he was cut from the team. He's trying to make the team again. About 6'8", 300-pounder. He's also been on the same offensive line protecting Peyton Manning. And I was asking him about the Brock Osweiler push. Now, there's a lightning rod topic because we talk about the NFL and their safety issues, Big C. This came from his mouth about 3 hours ago. He said, I don't think the NFL cares because he's a marquee player and they want to protect him. I said, I won't say his name, but I said, what would you do if he had pushed your wife twice? And he said it with a smackdown, right? So here's a player that played in the organization, and unfortunately, you and I have talked so much about it, but it's because if we don't, people won't. But this issue of no tolerance for pushing or hitting or verbally abusing women. But here's a guy getting $75 million, and he just kind of said, yeah, they really don't care, though, Charlton. They're in the business of making money, and that's it.
Well, Charlton, it's very easy for the commissioner to pass it off to the review committee.
Yeah.
When it's an Anglo quarterback.
Yeah.
Now we talked about Johnny Manziel even a couple of days ago, where he's under
investigation,
possible indictment for beating a woman, and she has a perforated eardrum, so she has a lifelong imperative now.
Yeah. Because
being stricken by Johnny Manziel. So this grand jury is looking into it down in Texas.
Yeah.
But you've heard nothing from the NFL as far as Johnny Manziel being suspended. He's going to wait till everything pans out.
Yes.
But, the physical evidence is there in both of these cases.
Yes.
Now, you had Adrian Peterson, who whipped this child with a belt, got a year suspension.
Yeah.
You had Greg Hardy in a situation with a female in Carolina. Got tried, got a year and a half out of the league.
Yeah.
You had Ray Rice on videotape with double indemnity. The commissioner suspended him.
Yeah.
Alleged that he did not see the tape before it came out on the news. Now, with the NFL Security Committee, these guys are a police department.
Yes.
They have everything. and the commissioner gets everything that they have.
Yeah.
And for the commissioner to say he had no knowledge of it is kind of suspicious. But his actions after that, what he did.
Yeah.
Now, when I look at the level of punishment between the races of players from the commissioner, there's non-equity in that, Charlton.
Yeah. And so,
and the commissioner needs to step up and say, hey, I don't judge everybody the same.
Yeah.
That's what he needs to do.
Well, see, Big C, and when we mention that, people might say, well, that's just looking at one side of the table. But I'm actually starting.
There's only one side of the table. There's nobody sitting on the side of the table with Roger Goodell.
Yeah.
He's judge and jury.
Well, see,
that's what he is. He shares no power with anybody, Charlton. So what he does is his decision. You can't say, well, the rest of the league is making these decisions. No, it's Roger Goodell. It's black and white with him.
Well, see, this is interesting to me because I've been around broadcast since about 1988. When I meet people like from the NFL Network, there's a great anchor. She's a great reporter. Her name is Lindsay Rhodes. She does a lot of interviewing of athletes on the NFL Network. But also, when you watch basketball games, you have people like Lisa Salter and Sage Steele. She does work with ESPN. Now, these women, they, just like any male in the business, they have the right to feel safe when they're in an environment. But I just think there's something that's just not jiving right. And for me, the reason I want to talk about it is because I have a wife and a daughter. And the people who don't stand up and say anything about it, like Dr. King said, letting injustice happen anywhere, it's like happen. It's making it happen. I don't see why, if we have a position of someone like the commissioner, why you would not at least have an acknowledgement of what happened. Because, as you know, Big C, you know it's going to happen. As the season gets closer to happen, someone is going to have a charge of domestic abuse or domestic violence, and they're going to trace back to this silent treatment of Brock Osweiler that one of his offensive linemen and I just talked about 3 hours ago. And they're going to say, well, why are you going to come after me? You never went after him.
Well, not only that, Charlton, we talked about the incident with the two Laker players for verbal harassment.
Yeah.
Not a physical harassment, a verbal harassment.
Yeah.
And here they are being scrutinized by the league as well as slammed through all the media outlets on television about this alleged incident. And these same media talking heads had knowledge of the Osweiler incident, Charlton.
Yes.
But they don't say anything about it. It's like the offensive lineman said. They're looking for him to be the next marquee white quarterback in the NFL. Now, what's going to happen if Robert Griffin goes out and has a better year than what Osweiler has in Texas?
Yeah.
Will he get that acclaim across the board in the NFL? People saying, hey, this guy is as good as advertised. Or are they going to kiss up to Osweiler as he's struggling halfway through the season in Texas, Charlton?
Well, think about it, too. Another person we brought up was the GM for the Denver Broncos, John Elway. Now, you know, his father, Jack Elway, was a coach at San Jose State University back in the day.
Yes.
And then there was a time when John Elway, coming out of Granada Hills High School in Southern California, he was a draft choice, a prospect for Major League Baseball as well as NFL football. But he was going to be
base with the Yankees, Charlton, in spring ball.
Exactly. But he was going to be picked up by the Baltimore Colts at the time, and he said he didn't want to play unless he could go to another team of his choice. Well, he got his way. A lot like Carson Wentz right now. They tried to make him the next great quarterback coming. He did happen to have a great career when he went on to Denver. And they're trying to say the same thing about Carson Wentz. But the thing is, Big C, about this, Elway got rid of Osweiler, I think, because he knows the same thing the offensive lineman told me about. And they'd rather be without a quarterback, without a starting quarterback, than to try to match the offer that Houston came up with, Big C. But Elway was also selfish when he was an athlete, so he understands how to get rid of selfish players. Do you think any of that has merit, Big C?
Well, I look at the merit of it. Elway knew that if he didn't put enough money on the table, that Osweiler would leave automatically because somebody would make a better offer to it.
Yeah.
And so that's what he was expecting. It made it easy out for Elway not to have to answer these scenarios about abuse and the videotape.
Yeah.
If he's out of Denver, then that's something you don't want to have to deal with. If you recall during the Super Bowl, Charlton, they just had the scenario with the defensive back, alleged solicitation of an undercover officer for,
down in San Jose. Exactly.
And so he had to answer those questions. Now, he doesn't want to have to answer these situations about his supposedly starting quarterback assaulting a woman.
Yeah.
So how do you handle that? You know, that double standard would come back with Elway.
Yep, I agree. And when you talk about coming back with Elway, that's something that he would have to definitely address, Big C. And if he did have to address that situation, Obviously, he got rid of that situation. But again, because Elway also was a selfish player back in the day, Elway was selfish. He understands how selfishness gets in the way and how to get rid of it, Big C. But as you were saying, go right ahead.
Well, you got to explain why you sent home this defensive back from the Super Bowl who was African American.
Yeah.
But you let this white quarterback get away with assault that you see on TV. Now, he didn't want to have to answer those questions. It was easier to let the guy go. You can find a quarterback in the NFL if you got the right system, Charlton.
Yeah.
Osweiler was not going to be the next thing that set the barn on fire, okay?
Well, I agree with that.
He's going to go to Houston. He's going to have mediocre success. And it proved in the last 3 games that he played for Denver that he was not the quarterback they thought he was.
Well, he was benched, but think about this, and you brought up a good point, Big C. Robert Griffin III, RG3, he signed a 2-year, $15 million contract with the Browns on Thursday. $6.75 million is guaranteed. Now, and he's been a playoff quarterback. Contrast that with Brock Osweiler, who was benched going into the playoffs, and he's getting $75 million. Not just on color, but I don't understand the thinking of that. When you have a guy in RG3 that had an injury, but before he was injured, he led you on to the playoffs. But he's getting damn near $50 million less than a guy who never even went to the playoffs.
Well, not only that, Charlton, when you look at this, Chase Daniels signed 3 weeks ago with the Philadelphia Eagles, okay?
Yeah.
Chase Daniels has been a career backup. He did 4 years behind Drew Brees. He did 2 years behind Alex Smith in Kansas City. He signed a 3-year, $21 million contract. 3 years, $21 million. He's thrown 1 damn touchdown pass in 6 years in the NFL. 1.
How many?
1 damn touchdown pass in 6 years in the NFL, and he gets $21 million. He gets a third more than Robert Griffin gets, who's been a starting quarterback who's won at least 10 games in 1 season in the NFL.
So, Chris...
Brock Osweiler hasn't been there. Chase Daniels has 1 touchdown pass, so that means he may never have started a game.
Right.
It just shows inequity in the league as far as how you treat and evaluate players economically, Charlton. That Griffin, been a starter in the NFL, number 2 draft pick overall, Heisman Trophy winner out of Baylor.
Yeah.
And only is going to get $14 million. We say only 14 because you got NFL starting quarterbacks making $14 million, $20 million a year.
What would Kenny the Steak Stabler be worth if he were playing at this time? And we talked about it before. Terry Bradshaw.
Terry Bradshaw. Tell me what Terry Bradshaw would be worth in this day and age. A Bob Greasy with the Miami Dolphins with an undefeated team, Charlton.
Yeah.
The only one in history. When you talk with Dan Fouts, Air Coryell, Dan Fouts set the level of play for quarterbacks as far as being able to be vertical.
Yeah, the lightning bolts.
Back-to-back 4,000-yard seasons in San Diego, great receiving corps. You could not afford to pay those guys. And they were consistent. Joe Montana, Charlton, Steve Young, Troy Aikman. How much would you have to pay these players today at the level that they play at versus these mediocre quarterbacks that you're giving $20 million? And Matthew Stafford, when was the last time they were in the playoffs? Atlanta hasn't been to the playoffs but one time in the last 11 years, and Matt Ryan's making $26 million and not looking to take a pay cut.
Yeah, that's the game where Colin Kaepernick led the 49ers and beat them, and they went on to the Super Bowl. But also, before we get to this next segment, Big C, I just want to say that this segment is sponsored by your Northern California Ford dealer. Go down and test drive the Ford F-150. It's built Ford tough, and tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. Now, Big C, as we transition, we've talked about some Hollywood and Adam Sandler and some of the great actors, Chris Rock and Burt Reynolds. And when you talk about a lightning rod of an issue, another player we keep bringing up is around the NBA, LeBron James trying to have this dream team. It's more like the over-the-hill gang. The Nets beat the Cavaliers last night, 104-95. Now, Brook Lopez scored 22 points, and Brooklyn blew by LeBron James and the Cavaliers. Now, James was scoreless and missed both shots in the fourth quarter, but he scored 30 points in the 13 and 14 shooting for 3. Now, listen, what is this about him trying to get his over-the-hill gang guys together and try to build a team when they already should be focused on being in first place right now, Big C?
Well, LeBron's ego, Charlton, has taken a serious punch to the gut.
Wait, you think LeBron has an ego?
He's looked at as the best player in the NBA.
Let me ask you this question.
And his ego,
yes.
His ego is killing him. And, he's talking about bringing Carmelo Anthony together.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to play with Carmelo. That's why the Knicks hasn't been able to sign anybody. But you're going to bring in, Chris Paul.
Yeah.
Dwayne Wade's walking around on crutches nowadays. And so, it's the true over-the-hill game. LeBron's not young any longer. He's got a lot of tread worn off those tires running up and down the court since he was 6 years old.
Well, let me ask you this.
His legs are not spry. But, you're talking about bringing guys together that nobody can play defense.
Yes. Well,
so, who's going to rebound?
Well, when you think about it, Carmelo Anthony scored 26 points last night. The Knicks beat the Bulls 106-94. Thunder beat the Jazz 113-91. The Clippers 96-94 over the Trailblazers. And J.J. Redick had 21 points. He had a 21-foot jumper as time expired. The Pacers beat the Pelicans 92-84. But I want to go back in the next few minutes, Big C, of the program, and we want to wish everyone a happy Easter. But when you think about, just talk about some of the great players that when they had the chance, like Golden State right now, they're trying to beat the Bulls record. We know that. This probably going to happen. But you think about guys like Willis Reed or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or Oscar Robertson, even if you go a recent guy, Michael Jordan, they were not as talented. Okay, maybe they were as talented as LeBron, but the maturity you would think would be there for LeBron. But remember, he never went to college. He came out of high school being Eagle-fed his whole career. Does that have something to do with his lack of being focused on the team he's on now, Big C?
It has a lot to do with when we talked about going to college, having social skills.
Yes.
We look at Calipari at Kentucky, and when he was at Memphis prior to that, and you look at these programs, you look at a Duke program with Krzyzewski.
Oh, yes.
Where players go in and they get an education. You look at Kansas, Charlton, the no-man wasteland of the universe, but they bring in basketball players that stay around and get an education. You think about the great Danny Manning who played at Kansas and they won a national championship under Larry Brown.
Yeah.
Danny Manning was a 4-year player and All-American at Kansas, but he had life skills when he came out of there, Charlton, and that's the key.
Yes.
So many of these players don't have life skills. Not saying LeBron doesn't have life skills, but he doesn't have home life skills.
And see, the thing
because everybody is giving everything to the king.
Yeah. Well,
and that's why I think this team, if he puts it together, they'll go to New York. They won't stay in Cleveland because he wants to be in the capital of media and the Mecca rather, which is the King City. That's New York.
Well,
that's where he wants to be. He wants to be on the spotlight.
And wouldn't that be a great opportunity? And see, you and I are talking about this. A lot of people aren't. It would be a great opportunity for him to play under Phil Jackson because even Shaquille O'Neal, I'll never forget one time when Jackson was coaching the Lakers and they were going for their three-peat. And I remember Shaq was horrible at the line. And during the play being drawn up on the sideline, I remember Jackson saying, forget about Shaq. Forget about Shaq. And Shaq stood there and took it because he knew it was great for his team. And I think LeBron, in my own sense, he's crying out for someone to say, put me in my place, I want to win. He knows it's not going to happen in Cleveland. They've already chased David Blatt out of town. Tyronn Lue, he is a good coach, but he's not listening to him either. I think if he played, his only championship came under Pat Riley because he had someone who wouldn't put up with that garbage. So New York would be a source for him. That's why that's why he's bringing up Carmelo's name. Carmelo's not leaving New York City, the Big Apple, to go to Cleveland. So I think your thoughts about New York, I think, is great. I also think Los Angeles, because he wants to be a movie star, and where else can you make movies but in Los Angeles, Big C? I think he's auditioning for next year.
You can do it in the Big Apple, but, New York is the only city that's going to handle his head right now. You can't put Carmelo and LeBron in L.A. together. They can blend together in New York. But like I said, they just don't have enough defense between them because you got too many ball handlers. Well, when you got too many ball handlers, things are not going to work out. But when you talk about being under Phil Jackson, that is the only guy in the NBA right now, other than Pat Riley, who can calm his ego because he has more success than he could ever achieve in life. When you look at the rings he has as a player with the New York Knicks, as a coach with the Bulls, as a coach with the Lakers, he's the second most celebrated basketball player in history behind Bill Russell. Well, when you think about the number of championships that he's won.
Yeah, and I know you talk about dominant players, and you have guys like Bill Russell, like under the great Red Auerbach. I don't think they had guys arguing with them too much and always trying to push the coach out of the way, the same way DeMarcus Cousins does here in Sacramento, always trying to, no matter who you bring in, because they want to be the guy so bad, they don't know how to handle that. But having someone like a Phil Jackson in the Big Apple, it makes so much sense because LeBron's on the down years of his career anyway, and he's not really a team player. he does need a mentor that can stand over him, like a Popovich, but I don't think Popovich would put up with the garbage.
No,
but,
he wouldn't take him in San Antonio.
But Phil Jackson, again, if you think that Phil could take LeBron, who would you like to see him build around? Would it be someone like Carmelo, or would it be coming from the draft, Big C?
Well, Carmelo would have to take a back seat if LeBron came into town, and his ego has not allowed him to do that throughout his career, even starting at Syracuse as a freshman when they won the national championship, Charlton.
Yeah.
He went to Denver. They only made the Western Conference Finals once in his tenure while he was in Denver. They don't even know what the playoffs smell like because he's been in New York. Everybody's looking to go out on summer vacation when the playoffs roll around in New York because they know that Carmelo can't get them there.
Well, go ahead, Big C.
Look at bringing that group in. He's trying to rekindle something like you would find in an Olympic dream team. But you can't get enough players with the salary cap implications. I don't think all these players want to take the pay cut.
Yeah.
You know that Carmelo's not going to take it. He has a no-trade clause in his contract, but he's not going to take a $14, $15 million pay cut to play with these guys.
In the last minute, Big C, what would it mean? And, of course, I think I know the answer to this, but what would it mean to the city of Cleveland if LeBron left again? They already burned his jerseys. They already showed him how they really feel about athletes, because athletes get cut and traded all the time, and they're not out burning jerseys. But this false love affair that Cleveland has with the king coming home, but if you leave, they burn your jerseys. I don't think he should have any loyalty to Cleveland, and I think that's why he's acting out right now, Big C, to make it easier when he leaves.
Well, that's what he's doing. He's trying to say that the organization is not putting the people in place for him to win. And he's all about winning. And none of it's his fault with the team not winning. He's giving it his all every night. But you got great players in Love and Irving on the team.
Yeah.
So, but those players were good before he got there.
Yes.
He came there, he didn't make them any better. See, that's the marquee of a great player, is that you make the players around you better. You will sacrifice your game to make it better. Now, the reason they won championships in Miami,
yes,
this player named Chris Bosh,
yeah,
who was an all-star forward when he was in Toronto.
Yeah.
He was a 24-point career scorer while he was in Toronto. He came to Miami.
Yeah. He
shaved 9 points a game off his scoring average to allow this team to be better, to allow other players to take shots.
Yes.
And so what happened in that, Charlton? They won a couple championships.
Another championship. Another championship.
Because you had players that were unselfish. Not like the king, but you had players that were unselfish.
Well, Big C, speaking of being unselfish, we're out of time. It goes by too fast. We've talked about Hollywood. We've talked about the great Adam Sandler. We even brought up some Burt Reynolds. We got in the great Chris Rock. Everything happens fast, but on the Charlton and Big C show, we bring you real talk. We love talking about some of the real things that we know you want to talk about, but sometimes the regular mainstream media won't bring it to you. But you can listen to us every Monday through Friday, 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time, worldwide on the Charlton and Big C show. We want to tell you we appreciate you. We thank you. Have a super fantastic day and a happy Easter to everyone. And we will catch you next week on Charlton and Big C Sports.